Or do you remember the questions you asked as a child? They matter more than you know. Global Speakers Talk. Before I tell you what I do, I first want to share with you of why I do it. Because long before I ever stood on stage, before I became a coach, an advocate, or a speaker, I was this little girl asking a question that might seem to linger on in my mind. Why was I born? This was not from sadness. This was from awareness and pure curiosity. Because I was born into a life that required me to see the world differently. I'm the youngest of 4 children, raised with a family with 2 brothers with special needs. My parents have 2 sons with Fragile X syndrome, a genetic disorder with many characteristics of autism. Our house was just full of love, but it was also full of responsibility. There were routines, programs, appointments, and business that my parents had to run, along with many, many challenges that shaped our family long before I understood what any of them meant. You see, as a little girl, I asked questions like, why do my brothers act differently? Why do people always stare at us? And the quiet question that lived deep inside of me was, why was I born into a family when my brothers had so many needs? It wasn't until adult that I learned that children like me are often called glass children, not because we're fragile, because families often look right through us in the chaos of caring for others. But even as a child, I sensed another question that lingered inside of me for it seemed like forever. What will happen to my brothers when my parents are gone? And somehow, even then, I already knew the answer that one day it was going to be me. My sister and I learned responsibility early, cooking, cleaning, and of course, watching our brothers. Learning compassion was through daily responsibilities, through love. When my parents passed, I stepped into the role that I've been preparing for my entire life. More than 35 years, I have been their caregiver, their advocate, their protector, but most importantly, their voice. That's when I learned the truth that shaped everything. Love is not passive. Love is action. Love is sleeping in hospital chairs through the night. Love is mounds of paperwork that nobody ever sees. Love is endless appointments. Love is being their advocate even when you're exhausted. Love is showing up again and again, and even when nobody is watching. Then there were seasons when everything collided all at once. Caring for my brothers, supporting my mother as dementia slowly changed the woman that I knew into someone who even didn't recognize me. It was raising as well 2 children of my own and walking through divorce, not once, but twice. The first time was searching for my own voice, and the second time was standing firm in my strength and walking away as the victor. Some days I felt strong, and then there were other days that I cried alone, wondering, how much more can I carry? And in those moments, I learned something that many of us tend to forget. We live and we give grace to everyone, but we forget about ourselves. For many years, I gave without pausing. I showed up for everyone except for me until one day my body made that decision for me. Bell's palsy became my wake up call. It forced me to listen. It forced me to rest. And also, it forced me to choose myself because at that point, I really did matter. Because you can't pour from an empty cup, which I did for far too long. even when you believe you have no choice but to try anyway. Then came the moment my second relationship ended due to infidelity. I looked in the mirror and I didn't recognize the woman that was looking back at me. Somewhere along the way, I had lost a piece of myself. That moment became my turning point. I chose to recognize where I was, to reinvent who I needed to become, and of course, then to rise into the woman that I was always meant to be. That decision revealed my purpose in two incredibly powerful ways. First, to empowering women to create a bold, fulfilling second chapter, reclaiming their identity to build their confidence, step into their journey of their clarity and power within. No woman should work this path and be alone along the way. Secondly, and very importantly, is to help families and caregivers prepare for the future, redefining their roles, building their families along the way, and finally giving back to themselves as it's so important through their lives. After years of giving to everyone else, because losing yourself in service to others is far too common. But rising back into your own life is where transformation really begins. This journey taught me something that I want every woman out there to remember. And it's never too late to come home to yourself again. Not at 40, not at 60, or even 75. Invention isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to the woman you were, the woman before life layered responsibilities, expectations, and exhaustion on top of yourself. So today, when I ask myself, why was I born? I finally know the answer. I was born to love deeply, to care fiercely, and to serve compassionately. But more than that, I was born to remind women and families and caregivers of something we forget too easily. Because I was born to remind you that you matter too. Propose something to you before you chase off. It's to reveal your resilience through love, rising again. So if something in my story stirred something within you today, please don't ignore it. That quiet little nudge that you're feeling, it's not your weakness. It's your awareness rising above. So I invite you to take one brave step for yourself, to ask yourself a very important question. What do you want? Give yourself permission to dream. Then I want to invite you to book a private conversation with me, not as a sales call, not as a commitment, but just a safe, supported place to stop, to pause, to reflect, and get clear of what your next chapter could look like. Because sometimes the bravest step is simply by giving yourself permission to ask the question. Thank you for listening to my story and for allowing me to be there for you. Thank you so very much.
And every story can change the world. Together we are Global Speakers Talk.